This conference will now be recorded.
Better? Okay.
For everyone that's joined us so far, if you don't mind muting your microphone, and we do have a chat option if you have questions during the presentation, or we're going to share all of our contact information at the end. And you can follow up with us. And we'll start the meeting at 5 o'clock.
Right. No. Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, should we go ahead and get started?
Yes.
All right. So welcome, we've got some families and some teachers, but my name is Mr. Johnson. I've met some of you before, especially if your students started in the last few months. This is my third year as graduation coach, and prior to that, I was a teacher here for 9 years, so my whole career I've been here. Plan on staying for a while longer. The schedule for tonight will be that I'll present some information about graduation. Mr. Vick will share for a few minutes about the upcoming ACT test, and then Ms. Hulbert will conclude with some information about Title I. You guys will have a chance to ask questions. If you look in the top right of your screen, you should see a little chat bubble icon. If you click that, we encourage you to type your questions in there, and then as soon as I'm finished with my presentation, I will read those questions and answer any questions that you have, and that'll be true for Mr. Vick and Ms. Hulbert as well. You are, of course, also welcome to email or text us at any time, and we'll share our contact information also. We'll do another one of these graduation information nights in January or February. Tonight's will be mostly focused on December's graduation, although there will be some general information shared about graduation requirements. So we'll have another night like this in January or February, that will really focus more on May's graduation. All right. So let's look at a couple of things. What I want to do really is answer a few of the questions that I get most often from students and parents. If I've met with you recently, I'm going to say some things that you already know, but there will be some new information in here as well, so bear with me. But this document that you see a picture of right here is called a graduation summary. A lot of you have probably seen that for your student. If you've not seen one recently or ever, you're welcome to email me, and it doesn't take me any time at all to send that to you. But this is really the best snapshot of where a student is in terms of finishing for graduation. So we're going to walk through a couple different parts of this so I can explain it. The first part in the bottom left, I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see it, but there's a box that says graduation requirements. When these 5 things are finished, that's when a student becomes eligible to get his or her diploma. You'll see the first 2 on there have to do with testing. So there's a state reading test and a state math test that students have to pass for graduation. And for each of those tests, there are a few different ones that students can take. And as long as they pass one of those tests, they're eligible for graduation. So for example, the reading test, we have the FSA test, the ACT reading test, the SAT. For math, we have the algebra EOC, the PERT test for some students, the PSAT for other students. Mr. Vick is going to talk more about the reading ACT and the math ACT that's coming up starting next week. So I'll let him share more details about that. But as soon as those are complete, then the student doesn't have to take those anymore. They're good for graduation. The GPA requirement for graduation is a 2.0. Typically, we don't really have a lot of problems with students reaching that because students have to earn an A, B, or C in all of the classes that they complete with us. So their GPA cannot go down because they're not getting D's and F's. It can only go up. So very rarely do we have any issues by the time that a student's finished with all of their classes. Worst case scenario, if we need to, we can have a student go back and retake a class that they got a D on for credit recovery, so it's not affecting their GPA anymore. But that's just not an issue. For work and volunteer hours, students need to complete 120 hours of either working at a job where they're getting paid or volunteering at a nonprofit organization or some combination of those 2 things. Typically, students prefer to get those hours by working at a job because they want to get paid, which is understandable. And for us to be able to count those hours, whether it's work or volunteer, we have a couple of forms that they fill out, their boss signs. They send us copies of their pay stubs if they're working or a timesheet if they're volunteering. And it's just as simple as that. And as soon as they hit 120 hours, they've met the requirement for graduation. If they're working, getting their hours that way, then they'll continue to turn in hours because every 74 hours that they work, they get a half a credit. It's an elective and it counts as an A. So it's another boost for their GPA. If they're working at a job that pays them cash, that's fine. That's not a problem. We usually have students who say, I work for my uncle's landscaping business. Different scenarios like that. Almost always we can count those hours, and it's just a matter of getting those forms signed. For classes, you'll see each graduation form will be different for each student, but on the graduation summary for your student, any classes that they finish will have a grade. The classes that are not finished for graduation will be shaded darker, and those are the classes that they need to be eligible for graduation. One of the questions that I get fairly often is, what's the difference between the 18 credit diploma and 24 credit diploma? In terms of next steps after graduation, there's really no difference. There's students, as far as applying to colleges, anything like that, both diplomas are standard Florida high school diplomas. The only difference between an 18 and 24 credit diploma is that a student basically just needs more elective classes to earn the 24 credit diploma. So most of our students finish with the 18 credit diploma, and that's fine. They won't have any issues with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The box right above that one on our graduation summary, gives a timeline for basically how many assignments, how many graded assignments students need to complete every day to graduate on time or early. So again, this number will be different for each student, but you'll see this student, for an example, needs to complete 13 graded assignments per day to graduate. In this case, for the student, December 2020 would be one semester early. So that gives a target for students to really track each day. Am I hitting this number? And that's a minimum number. So if they finish that number per day, they'll basically finish on the deadline for graduation. If they complete more assignments than that every day, they'll finish sooner than that. So some common obstacles to graduation. Some of these are expected. A couple of them maybe unexpected, or things we don't think about as often, but obviously health issues. That could be physical health, mental health. Our doors are open all the time. I have students stop by to kind of talk and process things. I know that's true for Mr. Vick and for Ms. Hulbert as well, and in fact for the teachers also. But we also do have a part-time psychologist who's here a couple days a week. As far as childcare, right now it's maybe not as much of an issue because students have the ability to work from home. And then transportation, we've always provided students with a free city bus pass, but actually right now the PSTA is offering free bus passes to everybody just because of COVID. So a lot of students are taking advantage of that. But even when that's not the case, they can always get free bus passes through us. Maybe one of the more unexpected obstacles is employment. And we want students to have jobs. We want them to be working. It's one of the graduation requirements. So that's a good thing when they get a job and are able to maintain that job. The problem arises when, or if an employer schedules that student so much during the week that they're really unable to come to school or even to work on their schoolwork from home. If that's the case, usually I'll have a conversation with the student and say, or the student will come to me and say, I've really tried, to have them change my schedule. They're making me come in and work. And so in that type of situation, with the student's permission, the parent's permission, I've had a lot of success sending a letter to the employer and saying, thank you for employing our student. We recognize that these are important skills that they're learning. However, their current work schedule doesn't allow them to come to school on the schedule that they should be coming to school. As a result, they're getting marked absent, and those absences are being reported to the state. And so we've had a good success with that letter in terms of helping employers understand the importance of being flexible as we are with students balancing that work and school schedule. And then another thing that I talk about a lot with students, and I might have talked about it with some of families before as well, but it always surprises me every year as students get close to graduating. There's a high level of nervousness and anxiety, which is normal, but it really comes out of a lot of times them not knowing what life after graduation looks like. So to the extent that I can sit down with the student and generate a plan, some kind of plan, even if that changes later, that often goes a long way in helping the student feel more comfortable with graduating. What we don't want is for that anxiety to result in a student kind of sabotaging graduation or not completing classes and postponing their graduation date because they're stressed out about what next steps look like. So we're going to come back to this in a minute when we talk about a couple of options after high school, but this is a conversation that I have a lot with students. Details for the actual ceremony. Finally, 99% nailed down, but we can share that on December 17th, this December, it's a Thursday night at 7 p.m., we will have a graduation ceremony for our December graduates at Ruth Eckerd Hall. Previously, we well, this past year, we actually graduated 216 students, which is more than half of our school. And this December, we're looking at probably around 70 graduates. So as we approach graduation, we'll share more details about what the ceremony will look like in terms of policies. And for example, we know right now students are going to be limited to 4 guests, unfortunately, just because of space restrictions and having to distance when we're at Ruth Eckerd Hall. But our graduation ceremony itself will look much like it has in the past otherwise, which is a full ceremony, cap and gown. Our board members will be there. We have a professional photographer who comes to the ceremony, takes individual senior pictures, cap and gown pictures of each student, takes a class picture. All of those pictures are provided to families for free online a few weeks after graduation. And in fact, the whole graduation ceremony is free for students. So there are no costs to families that are associated to graduation. If a student would like to purchase their cap and gown, they can do that, but it's not required. We have cap and gown that we'll provide, and then they'll just simply return that after the ceremony. For May graduation, again, we'll talk about that more in January, February. Those details are still coming together, but we will have a May ceremony as well. And so this will be the location for December graduation, at least. Some of you have probably been to Ruth Eckerd Hall. They've just renovated. This is the inside, so you can get an idea for how large it is. And that's kind of the large size is really what's allowing us to be there in a safe way. So next steps after graduation, this is kind of connected to that fear of the unknown aspect. One option obviously is college, and that's an option that a lot of students choose. So within that college option, there are a few options in that. One is a 4-year university. So USF is just one example of a 4-year university. I would say the minority of our students go directly from us to a 4-year university for a couple of reasons. One being that last year, the average GPA for a incoming freshman at USF was a 3.9, which is very high. So it's competitive to get in there. Now, we do have students who do that, but they've met all of those requirements. GPA, you have to have 2 years of a foreign language to go directly from high school to a 4-year university. So what I tell students who want to end up at a 4-year university is they can end up there, but their way to get there really is to go to a community college first. If they're staying locally, that would probably be St. Petersburg College. At St. Petersburg College, they have 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, and then some industry certifications that would take less than 2 years for students to finish. Now, if SVC and USF actually have a partnership. It's called the FUSE program. So if students go to SVC for 2 years and get their AA degree, a 2-year degree, they're guaranteed admission at USF. So students who want to end up in that 4-year university, that's their way to get there. They go to SVC first, do their 2-year degree. Because at that point, USF is not looking back at their GPA in high school, their performance in high school. They're looking at their time there at SVC. And honestly, I have students who graduate from here and are eligible to go to a 4-year university, and oftentimes they still elect to go to a community college first because they would be taking the same prerequisite classes at either location, but tuition at community colleges often around half of what it is at a 4-year university. So they end up transferring after 2 years anyway. Another good option for students is Pinellas Technical College. They have 2 locations here in Pinellas. I'll show you those in a second. But at Pinellas Technical College, they don't have 2-year and 4-year degrees. They only offer industry certifications, which, depending on the student's career field that they're interested in, is often exactly what they need. So a student who's planning to be a mechanic, an electrician, a plumber, those types of fields, they can go to a college like St. Petersburg College, but at the end of the day, if they're going to go into those fields, they really need to be past the industry certification tests So Pinellas Technical College really gives the students the skills that they need to be able to pass those tests. So classes are more hands-on, and I'll show you a picture of what their classrooms look like in a second. But regardless of what option they choose, financial aid is almost always necessary. So step one would be to go to the FAFSA website, studentaid.gov, and start that application. It's really not too early to do that. And they'll ask a lot of questions about your tax filings, how much money you made. Typically, the more money a family makes, the less government aid they'll get. The less money they make, the more government aid they'll get. And that, again, is just free money that students don't have to pay back. So it's really worth the time to apply for that. And Going Merry is a scholarship website that has a huge library of scholarships that students can apply to. And I can actually, if you're interested in exploring that, you can shoot me an email or a text, and I can send you an invitation to sign up within that. Another option, obviously some students need to work after high school. We understand that. What I tell some students that they don't always think about is that it's not always an either or decision. So a lot of students work part-time and go to school part-time, or work full-time and go to school part-time. And so I encourage them to think about that as well, and not rule out college or taking classes simply because they know they're going to have to work. And then, of course, military is an option. And we do have a good relationship with all of the branches. The recruiting office for several of the branches is just down the street. So if students need to talk to somebody to get more information, we can help facilitate that. All right. St. Pete College, I'm sure you've driven past a couple of campuses, but they actually have several locations in Pinellas County. It's kind of spread throughout the county. And typically what I would do each semester is bring small groups of students to St. Pete College, the Clearwater campus on Drew Street, and have them take a tour of the campus. Right now, that's not an option because of COVID. But if you want more information about SPC, you can always call them. I actually want to show you where to go on their website. The website has a lot of things to click on, but hopefully you can see this right now. And if you come up in the top right corner, there's this box over here that says request information. So if you click on that, it'll ask your status currently. So I'm a first-time college student. And then it'll just kind of walk you through your options. So you can click on what kind of program you're interested in, and then it'll list all the programs that they have, so you can scan through that. Our students can look at that. And I'm always happy to have a conversation. If there's things on there that they're not sure what they are, then I can help explain that. Let's go back here. And then Pinellas Technical College I mentioned. This is a list of their most common programs that we see students going into. And as you can see, it's a lot less than, most of them are a lot less than 2 years that they would be doing at St. Pete College. And again, these are those industry certifications. Another advantage to students who are attending Pinellas Technical College is that almost all of their programs are part-time, and a lot of them have evening classes because Pinellas Technical College recognizes that a lot of their students are going to be older, not all of them, and most of them will need to work while they're going to school. So their class schedule really helps students accommodate that. And they accept and offer all of the same financial aid pretty much as another school like SPC would. They have a campus in Clearwater, it's just off East Bay and 19, and another one in South County in St. Pete. I'm going to show you their website quickly as well. So if you go to the Pinellas Technical College website, the first place you probably want to land is their programs. So if you click on programs, it will show you a list of everything that they offer at their Clearwater campus and at their St. Petersburg campus. And if you click on any of these programs, it'll give a description, it'll tell you the cost for each one, before any financial aid. So there's a lot of good information there. Again, if students have follow-up questions, which they probably will, then I'm always happy to talk to them about that. So this is a picture. This is what a classroom at P-Tech, Pinellas Technical College, looks like. You can see, obviously, it's not a traditional classroom. Their programs are really hands-on. So this is actually the mechanic program at their Clearwater campus, the automotive service technology. They also have an advanced automotive service technology that when students finish, they're a certified Honda technician, so they can work at a Honda dealership. That's one example. Cosmetology is another program that's very popular there. This is also the Clearwater campus. So they really get to practice the skills that they need. Now, unlike St. Pete College, Pinellas Technical College is offering tours for individual students. So I can't take small groups of students and go there, but you're welcome to contact either of these people, depending on which campus you're interested in, and they can get an individual tour just with you and your student on the calendar. They'd be happy to show you around. And again, what I've found in the past is that when students are on a campus, they're able to see what the classrooms look like, what the campus looks like. It goes a long way in reducing that fear of the unknown and that anxiety that exists. Mm-hmm. And it really helps them to make those steps forward in applying. But here's my information. Feel free to email me. I'll check the chat box in a second to see if there are any questions, but you can text, call, email me. And we really encourage you to reach out to your student's homeroom teacher as well. If you want to set up a conference, we can do that. Virtually, we can do it very easily using this same GoToMeeting platform. And another good source of information is our school newsletter that Mr. Vick sends out. So if you're not receiving that, let us know and we can make sure you're on that list. Okay. So I'm going to get out of this.
And I don't see any questions in the chat room now. Right now, anyway.
Right. Okay, if you think of questions, feel free to still add those. We'll address those a couple more times before we're done. But Mr. Vick, Ms. Halbert, if you have anything to add, feel free. But I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Vick, and he's going to talk about ACT.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody can see it quite yet.
Not yet.
Let's try it again. Okay, here we go. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yep, we can see it.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Delvin Vick. I'm the principal here at Enterprise High School. I've been here since June 1st, and I absolutely love it. The only thing that kind of gets me down is that we don't have a whole lot of students in the building, but the ones who've come in and the ones who texted me and everything, I think we've formed a pretty good relationship, and I look forward to seeing them graduate, and I look forward to going to Ruth Eckerd Hall in December to see the ceremony. My role is to talk about the upcoming ACT. This is a student presentation of that test. So the ACT is American College Testing, and we often hit that here at Enterprise. The window opens up next week, so on Tuesday, October 6th, and it runs all the way till Friday, October 16th. It's a pretty rigorous test, but it's a great opportunity for our students to meet those scores that they need for graduation. We're going to conduct AM and PM testing sessions. Our AM session will begin at 8 o'clock and run pretty much to about 11:30. PM session runs 12:30 and goes to about 3:30. Students are considered late once we start distributing materials in the classroom. So I recommend that students arrive at least 20 minutes early so we can go through the check-in process and go ahead and get started. with testing. Currently, homeroom teachers are contacting students who need to take the test. And also, this past Friday, we sent out letters, individual letters to every student who needs to take this test to meet either requirement in math or reading. And again, I said it's an excellent opportunity for students who wish to graduate in December. It's like the last major test that they'll have to take getting ready for graduation. And particularly if you're still in need of that passing score. So as we alluded to a little bit earlier, David talked about why should you take the ACT? Students must meet testing requirements in English and Algebra 1, the math. You can do that by passing the FSA or the EOC for algebra, but if you don't pass that, you'll need to earn a concordance score through the ACT or one of the other tests. So ACT is just one way to meet those graduation requirements. So now, one of the tests that we're giving is the ACT reading, English and reading. So you can pass the reading requirement by earning a combined average score of 18 on the ACT English and the reading section. Or if you're a student who entered high school before 2018, you can meet the requirement if you just earn a score of 19 or better on the ACT reading section. But what we're doing is we're requiring students to take both, unless we get into a crunch. Students who take both, it's almost like having a double opportunity. Either you're going to do the average or you'll just get the one score that you need. On the math side, if you want to get the score that you need to meet the algebra requirement, you'll have to earn a 16 or better on the ACT to meet that. Preparation for the ACT, how can I prepare? There are numerous online resources available for ACT prep. Many of them include sample questions and even long practice tests if your child wants to do that. You can visit act.org here. For English, Miss Hamilton, who's available online, I do see her. She has created some ACT prep sessions for our reading test. So the links can be found on Apex. If you just go to Apex and look at the top right in our announcement section on the student dashboard, you just simply copy and paste the link in your browser. You can get started with those ACT prep sessions for the reading and English test. On the math side, Ms. Grabowski found a great website, the Math Help site. That link is up there, and it will also be in this presentation when we link this presentation to our website. So you can check that out. And also, if you go to the ACT site itself, there are practice tests for all subjects. You just have to log in as guests. You can do the computer-based one. If you have a printer at home, you can also print out the paper version and practice those. It's a good idea to really prepare. The test is timed. Our longest section lasts about 60 minutes, but our students get triple time. So that equals out to 180 minutes for our longest session of the ACT. Testing sessions, what to do on the day. Arrive at least 20 minutes before. Students who are testing at 8 a.m. should arrive by 7:40. Again, we have to check you in. Cell phones should be left in your car or turned off completely and given to the room supervisor. That's a non-negotiable because that will cause us to have a misadministration or irregularity, and we do not want that. You may bring a snack, but it can only be eaten during the breaks. And please, if you are students, please try to bring some form of ID. Most of you, we do know, but you want to get in the habit for these standardized tests to bring in a form of ID. And you must follow all the testing rules and directions given by the room supervisor. Again, we want to avoid any kind of distractions or situation where we have to not count the test for people. Any questions about testing? If you're unsure about whether you test, the best person to reach out to is your homeroom teacher, but feel free to contact me. The best way to contact me is that cell phone number you see there, the 315-263-9540. And when you do text me, please include your name or the name of your child, and I'll do my best to get back with you as soon as possible. And my email address is listed there below, delvin.vick@enterprisehighschool.org. And I'm going to close this out and see if I have any questions.
I don't think there's any questions, so if it's okay, and please, if you have any, put them in the chat room, but I'm going to continue with the meeting, and if everyone bears with me about 6 more minutes, we will have things wrapped up. So I'm going to share my screen right now.